Rumors and leaks have pointed to a new PlayStation event happening soon, but after the reveal of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, some assumed that Sony would stick to individual announcements instead. However, Sony has since confirmed that it is indeed going to be hosting a State of Play event, with it taking place on Thursday, July 8th as the various leaks said it would, but it is not a big event. The next PlayStation State of Play will take place on Thursday, July 8th at 2 p.m. Pacific Time. The State of Play will last for about 30 minutes and consist of updates on upcoming third-party and indie games in development for PS4 and PS5. One of the main games at the show will be Bethesda's Deathloop, which will get an extended 9-minute deep dive, which is something a weird one because they showed Deathloop 3 times previously in their own events. Sony has confirmed that God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West will be absent at the new PlayStation State of Play. Since Horizon Forbidden West just had its own individual State of Play event, not many were expecting to see the game at this new one. However, the leakers that leaked the existence of this event in the first place seemed to think that God of War Ragnarok gameplay would be shown at the event, so it's a bit surprising that the highly anticipated game will be missing in action. Something else we won't see at the State of Play is new information on PlayStation VR 2. PlayStation VR 2 hardware isn't expected to launch until 2022, so it makes sense that Sony is keeping it mostly under wraps for now. However, Sony did say that it will have updates on God of War, Horizon, and next-gen PlayStation VR soon, and also having some indies is good. In the meantime, it's possible that one of the big announcements for the next PlayStation State of Play has already leaked online. Sony Japan jumped the gun recently when it released a graphic announcing PlayStation's acquisition of Bluepoint Games, the studio behind critically acclaimed remakes like Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls. The graphic was pulled pretty quickly and Bluepoint has insisted that it is an independent company. But maybe the announcements will come during the State of Play. Whatever the case may be, PlayStation fans should be sure to tune in on Thursday, July 8th at 2 p.m. Pacific Time to watch the next State of Play event. PlayStation has confirmed that they have more to show in summer 2021 in the upcoming days. So, we expect a big event in a few weeks after this State of Play. However, in this State of Play I am looking forward to the third-party announcements and extended gameplay for games like Little Devil Inside, Stray, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Saifu and other new stuff. Last year we had State of Plays as well as major PlayStation showcases, so there is a difference between State of Plays and bigger PlayStation events. The PlayStation Now games for July 2021 previously leaked online, and it seems the leak was right on the money. God of War is the headlining new PlayStation Now game for July 2021, available exclusively as a download on PS4 and PS5 until November 1st. Fans can also check out the 2018 Red Dead Redemption 2 game, which stands as one of the highest-rated last-gen games released to date. These juggernauts are joined by other major games coming as part of the PlayStation Now July 2021 games lineup. Nioh 2, the critically acclaimed follow-up to Team Ninja's Nioh, is also available for PlayStation Now in July 2021, as is the co-op party game Moving Out. Yakuza spin-off game Judgment is also coming to the service this month, with us able to play it through PlayStation Now until it's removed on October 4, 2021. Sports games fans have a couple of titles to look forward to when it comes to the PlayStation Now games for July 2021 as well. First up is Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, joined by NASCAR Heat 5. The games will be available on PlayStation Now indefinitely, as the only titles with confirmed removal dates at this time are Red Dead Redemption 2 and Judgment, so PlayStation Now subscribers may want to prioritize those two games if they haven't played through them yet. Besides PlayStation Now games, PlayStation fans also have new PS Plus games to look forward to in July 2021 as well. The free PS Plus games for July 2021 will hit the service on July 6th, consisting of the next-gen version of A Plague Tale Innocence, Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, and WWE 2K Battlegrounds. So anyone subscribed to both PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus has a ton of new content to look forward to in July. Moving forward, we have a latest Nintendo Switch news, as Nintendo officially announces the long-rumored Nintendo Switch Pro console, which will be known as the Nintendo Switch OLED model, which is disappointing. For months, rumors have been swirling that a Nintendo Switch Pro model was in development, serving as a mid-gen upgrade for Nintendo's home console/handheld hybrid. Nintendo was expected to unveil the Nintendo Switch Pro just prior to E3, and when it didn't, many thought that the new console was going to wait until 2022. However, Nintendo has suddenly dropped the announcement trailer for the Nintendo Switch OLED model. The Nintendo Switch OLED release date is October 8, with it retailing for $349.99. Nintendo Switch OLED pre-orders don't seem to be open at this time, but one has to imagine that they will open up later today. Of course, this new Nintendo Switch console has some added bells and whistles, but the price is not worth it to me because the only thing is an OLED edition and an 1-inch bigger screen. While the console's overall size remains the same, the OLED screen is slightly larger at 7 inches compared to the original 6.2-inch screen. However, while the OLED will be able to give players an improved picture contrast, it remains locked at 1280x720 resolution. With all the rumors indicating the Switch Pro would not only have better hardware components as well as providing true 4K resolutions, this Switch model obviously falls well short. The other major component is battery life, something which the newer Switch versions managed to improve from the original 2017 launch version. Thankfully, even with all of the enhancements including the more powerful OLED screen, this latest Switch model continues that standard by offering players an estimated 4.5 to 9 hours of battery life. For those players who will be looking to upgrade, they would be disappointed. For many fans, the question now becomes whether or not this is the final hardware revision from Nintendo. Considering all of the rumored Switch Pro features missing from this latest model, some have begun to wonder if a true technologically advanced Pro model is still coming next year, or if Nintendo is now looking to move on to a true next successor of the Switch in a few years' time. Even with all these improvements, the Switch OLED is no Switch Pro, which was rumored to feature hardware upgrades that Switch players and Nintendo itself are very much in need of. One of the most controversial aspects of the current Switch, and by extension the Switch OLED when it releases, is that even first and second-party games don't benefit from high FPS. This means that even games like Breath of the Wild 2, Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and Metroid Dread will still have the same problem on the OLED model as they would on the regular Switch. This makes the Switch a less desirable console for AAA games releasing in the future, especially with the incredible performance and graphics of next-gen consoles. Not only that, but one of the biggest gripes of Switch owners is that the Joy-Cons eventually start drifting after a few years of usage. With the OLED being an improved Switch, it would have been great for it to feature improved Joy-Cons as well, solving this lingering problem that has made some owners skeptical about future Switch releases. As a matter of fact, there has been no word by Nintendo on the no-drift Joy-Cons, or a full, permanent fix of the issue, even though players in the US can trade them in for free and get a brand new pair of controllers. Rumors for the Switch Pro claimed that the console would be announced this year, and then release in 2022, but that seems unrealistic. For starters, players shouldn't be asking when the Switch Pro releases now, but rather if it does at all. With the Switch OLED releasing in October, it's not impossible that the Switch Pro will either never see the light of day or become a release for 2023 at the earliest. The Switch Pro was probably always meant to be a way to bridge the gap with a fully upgraded next-gen Nintendo console, much like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X were improved in a way that felt like a middle ground between the previous gen and the current machines. The Switch Pro is rumored to use NVIDIA's DLSS technology and also support 4K resolutions, which is not what the OLED promises to do. Today's announcement for the OLED makes the possibility of the Switch Pro releasing next year very unlikely, and rumors will have to be downsized from here on. Still, this shouldn't come as a surprise. The Switch Pro skipping E3 was a big red flag for a possible 2022 release, and the OLED releasing this year explains why. The answer to whether or not it's worth upgrading to the Switch OLED is fairly complicated, as it largely depends on the gamer's current setup. For those that already own a Nintendo Switch console, specifically the non-lite version, it might be difficult to justify the leap between the consoles. Had the Switch OLED opted for a 4K display in handheld mode, the change would have been a no-brainer. The reality is a bit more complex. It's hard to undersell how big of a difference an OLED display can really make on a console without seeing it firsthand. The displays are able to conjure up much better contrast than what traditional displays are able to, and that means games are going to look a lot more detailed and all around sharper. With the Nintendo Switch's display clocking in at just 7 on the OLED model, fans are still going to get crisp images, even if they aren't what 4K would be. Those that are primarily using their Switch consoles in handheld mode, then, will get a tangible benefit by upgrading their console. Anyone that's still using a launch version of the Switch will especially want to consider upgrading to the Switch OLED, as it also has the same battery life as the updated Switch model, lasting around 4.5 to 9 hours versus the 2.5 to 6 hours of the launch version of the console. That's a sizable difference, especially for those that travel a lot. However, those that are mostly using their Switch console docked, connecting it to a display that could already be an OLED screen, aren't going to benefit all that much from the trade. The Switch OLED's dock station offers a wired LAN port, which is sweet for downloads and online play, but isn't a massive difference compared to the current setup. Overall, docked users aren't going to get much of a benefit from the system. Upgrading from the Switch Lite is even more complicated than the standard Switch model. There are many reasons to opt for the Switch Lite over the standard Switch, budget and preferred use format being the chief examples. The small size of the Switch Lite is another perk for those that travel frequently, and it has better battery life than the original Switch. For many, the Switch Lite might be considered a secondary console, something to complement the main experience that serves as a more portable option. For others, the small size is enough of a perk on its own that using it as a primary driver is fine. Those that like the small size might be put off by the Switch OLED seemingly using the same shell as a base Switch, though the OLED display has a smaller bezel, so the screen is still larger overall. Those that opted for the Switch Lite's small size may find the display more attractive, but that's really the only reason to make the leap to the console. The upgraded battery life of the Switch OLED is another selling point, but the 3 to 7 hours found on the Switch Lite isn't awful either. Anyone operating on a budget may also want to stick with their Switch Lite, as $350 is a fair bit to invest into a system that hasn't made massive changes. Finally, there are those out there that haven't made the jump to the Switch whatsoever, and are currently operating without Nintendo's flagship system. For some, that might be because they were waiting for a change just like the ones the Switch OLED model is bringing. For others, they just might not be enamored with the Switch's game catalog or Nintendo itself. Those that are debating buying a Switch will definitely want to opt for the Switch OLED model. The regular Switch isn't a bad console by any means, but the extra $50 on the price tag is worth it for the OLED display. Keep in mind, the Switch OLED will likely be difficult to find at launch, just as the PS5, Xbox Series X, and even the Switch itself have been over the course of the last half year or so. The Switch now has a formidable library of games though, one that's appealing to a much broader audience than Nintendo has catered to in the past. The Switch's sales success makes it an alluring platform for developers to launch their games on, and that means that third-party support is better than it ever has been for Nintendo consoles. While first-party software retains its price for a long time on the system, it seems like Nintendo is always running sales on games from this generation. The Switch OLED will be the best way to play those games for the foreseeable future, so it makes sense to wait for the OLED for first-time owners. There's a chance that a true Switch Pro will come along at some point. The Nintendo might not want to muddy the waters too much with its naming conventions. However, all this talk about a handheld with an impressive OLED display has me thinking back to an innovative albeit less successful system from back in 2011, the PS Vita. While the PS Vita only ended up selling a fraction of as many units as its predecessor the PSP did, the excitement of fans on Twitter today has proven that they haven't forgotten about the handheld console, despite how some look at it in retrospect. The Switch OLED also lacking simple PS Vita features like game folders and themes, augmented reality games, things that Switch owners have desperately clamored for since the Switch initially released back in 2017. After announcing that it would be shutting down the Vita's online marketplace, Sony recently changed its plans and assured us that it would keep the PS Vita store open for an indefinite amount of time. While it doesn't seem incredibly likely, I am also hoping for Sony to make a handheld gaming comeback eventually as well. As for the Nintendo Switch OLED model, it is certainly interesting to see which insider rumors, reports, and claims have come to fruition after months of waiting. While the console revision will feature an NVIDIA Tegra processor, it doesn't seem to come equipped with any of NVIDIA's machine learning DLSS technology as previously rumored. It also seems that the Switch OLED won't be phasing out the standard Nintendo Switch model, but will instead live alongside it, and the Switch Lite is a new member of the Switch family. Releasing alongside Metroid Dread and just in time for titles like WarioWare Get It Together, and Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it looks like Nintendo fans have a lot to look forward to this fall. But this upgrade for the Nintendo Switch is good, but I don't know if it is a great one. Nintendo always attracts rumors. From the continued discussion about a possible Nintendo Switch Pro console to possible games in development, fans will always have something to speculate about, including mini consoles. Nintendo has provided ways that fans can play some of the retro video games in its library. This includes a series of classic mini consoles, such as the NES Classic and SNES Classic. In a Q&A with shareholders and President Shuntaro Furukawa, Nintendo explained that future Classic Edition consoles are being considered. The NES and SNES Classic consoles were miniature versions of the originals that were preloaded with a set of games from Nintendo's history. These games are playable through the console's emulation software, which can allow players to access save state and rewind features. Some of the titles that could be played on the console include Earthbound, Super Mario RPG, and even the previously unreleased Star Fox 2. Since these consoles allow gamers of a diverse generation to play the classics, shareholders of the company suggested that these classic consoles can be a gateway for parents to continue gaming. With a lot of Nintendo's library currently restricted to its console of origin, some fans have hoped that they would continue its classic console line, continuing where it left off by producing an N64 Classic. At a shareholder meeting at Nintendo, President Shuntaro Furukawa says that future classic mini consoles are under consideration. The possibility has not escaped the company's attention, addressing in the Q&A that giving gamers the chance to play through the classics is an important goal. Translated by Cheesemeister on Twitter, Furukawa explains, "We always want our products to be played across generations, from kids to adults. Actually, we think that the generations that have adopted Nintendo consoles have greatly expanded as the years have gone by in the video game business." As Furukawa explains, thanks to the Nintendo Switch Online (NSO) service, it provides fans the chance to play some games through the NSO application, which includes several titles from the NES and SNES library. He goes into further detail explaining that expanding that future classic contents in either the classic console or Switch Online service will need a lot of consideration when appealing to a new generation. The previous Nintendo Classic consoles proved to be popular among gamers when the NES Classic was first released in 2017. However, the low stock that was produced for the consoles led to cases where they sold out so quickly that not even the general public knew about it until it was too late. The track record for Nintendo's products has seen them scalped online, so if fans are expecting an N64 Classic Mini, they should be wary of the possibility. There is also another Nintendo news, as former BioWare producer Mark Dara reveals new details about Mass Effect Corsair, a cancelled, first-person Mass Effect spin-off for the Nintendo DS. Spanning 4 games, novel adaptations, and comic books, Mass Effect has weaved quite the legacy since its first entry debuted on PC and consoles back in 2007, becoming one of gaming's most recognizable RPG franchises. The series was such a landmark success that it seems BioWare even started drafting up a first-person spin-off for the Nintendo DS, with a new interview between MinMax and former BioWare producer Mark Dara revealing new details about the cancelled handheld title. Known as Mass Effect Corsair, Dara reveals that the game would have taken place in a part of the Mass Effect universe only briefly explored in the main trilogy, noting that the setting would have been more pirate-y. The spin-off would allegedly share a lot of similarities with titles like Privateer and Star Control, seeing the player exploring the galaxy in a ship and selling the information they gleaned to the Human Alliance. According to Dara, players wouldn't be taking on the role of a Spectre this time around, but instead fill the shoes of a Han Solo-type hero, roaming the universe independently and looking out for themselves. While the team had started early pre-production on the project, it didn't make it much further than the preliminary stages, with the interview revealing that BioWare had only really started work on the flight controls. As for why the idea was eventually abandoned, Dara states a few reasons, although the biggest seems to the cost of developing on the Nintendo DS. The economics of the DS are just terrible, the developer admits, stating that the DS cartridge they'd need for the game cost $10.50 while the games themselves were retailing for around $30. Considering EA had projected the game would sell around 50,000 copies, the team decided to move on from the project. Dara also admits that the game didn't entirely fit into Mass Effect's established lore, although he claims that the team likely could have made it work. Earlier this year, Mass Effect made its grand return to PC and consoles for the first time since 2017, with Mass Effect Legendary Edition remastering the original trilogy and adding some long-requested tweaks and fixes. The game came loaded with almost every DLC released for the trio of games, some major visual upgrades, and improvements to some of the game's most heavily criticized mechanics. The next mainline addition to the series is on the way, with BioWare announcing it was hard at work on a new Mass Effect at last year's Game Awards. In the meantime, the team is focused on Dragon Age 4, which currently has no official release date. Moving forward, we have interesting leak or rumor on GTA 6. It's been 8 years since the launch of Grand Theft Auto 5, and so we are understandably growing anxious for Grand Theft Auto 6. Unfortunately, recent leaks suggest that the Grand Theft Auto 6 release date is still years away, with us caution that we likely won't get to play the game until sometime in 2024 or 2025. In the meantime, speculation, leaks, and rumors will continue to run wild, with some more reliable than others. Leaker Tom Henderson, who is perhaps best known for leaking information on Call of Duty and Battlefield, has recently set his sights on Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks, teasing fans what they can expect from the upcoming game. Henderson has proven to be a reliable source of information in the past, and recently Bloomberg's Jason Schreier backed up some of his claims, lending Henderson added legitimacy. Even so, fans should always take information like this with a grain of salt. Most recently, Henderson created a Grand Theft Auto 6 drawing, which he has described as a concept of a concept. He denied that the drawing is based on actual Grand Theft Auto 6 concept art, but that it was created using existing assets. Henderson has previously teased Battlefield 6 features using drawings, and the claims made with those turned out to be true, so fans have been paying close attention to his GTA 6 drawing. There are a few interesting details that fans can glean from the drawing. For one, it appears to back up previous claims that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be set in Vice City. For years, the rumors have been fairly consistent that Vice City is the next destination for the Grand Theft Auto franchise, which makes sense as Grand Theft Auto 4 was set in Liberty City and GTA 5 was set in Los Santos. The drawing also includes a female character holding a gun, which is likely in reference to the rumored female protagonist. According to various leaks, Grand Theft Auto 6 will have a female protagonist as one of two main characters that will be playable in the game. Similarly to the game's rumored Vice City setting, a female playable character has been a fairly consistent rumor when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 6. Another detail that fans will notice about Henderson's drawing is the character flying around in a jetpack. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas featured a jetpack that players could use to fly around the world map, and while one has been hinted at for Grand Theft Auto 5, it has yet to be added or discovered. One is available to use in a Grand Theft Auto Online heist, however. Henderson later posted a GIF on Twitter of someone using a jetpack, perhaps further teasing that the unique vehicle option will return in GTA 6. In that same tweet, Henderson cautioned that he won't be able to regularly drop Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks and said it could be another year before he has anything else to share. As always, fans should treat this information with a grain of salt, but Henderson has proven to be a reliable source in the past. With the Grand Theft Auto 6 release date still likely years away, it will be some time before fans know whether or not there was ever any truth to these leaks, but it will be interesting to find out one way or another. And now VGC has backed up the claims about Grand Theft Auto 6 as well, saying that its sources have confirmed the details about Grand Theft Auto 6 being set in Vice City and having an evolving map. Considering this information may be one of the first legitimate leaks when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 6 to date. As for when we may find out more about Grand Theft Auto 6 in an official capacity, that remains to be seen. The latest leaks point to Grand Theft Auto SIX's release date being 2024 or 2025, meaning we have a minimum of 3 years to wait before they'll get the chance to play the game. It seems that the absolute best case scenario is getting a Grand Theft Auto 6 reveal in 2024, so GTA fans will need to make do with the next-gen versions of Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online in the meantime. Both will be available for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X beginning November 11, 2021. Up next we have an update from NetherRealm Studios, as they announced the DLC for Mortal Kombat 11 is done, and the developers are now focused on their next project. It seems that content for Mortal Kombat 11 is finally at an end. After over 2 years, Mortal Kombat 11 has announced that there will be no additional DLC packs. NetherRealm Studios' long-running hyper-violent fighting series marks its 30th anniversary next year. The latest franchise entry, Mortal Kombat 11, received more post-launch content than any Mortal Kombat title before it, including the robust Aftermath DLC campaign expansion and a host of additional classic and crossover characters. The last major batch of DLC for the game came in the form of Kombat Pack 2 in October 2020, which included Rambo, Rain, and Mileena. Posted to the official Mortal Kombat Twitter, the message spells a clear and definitive end to additional content, rather than series co-creator Ed Boon trolling or teasing fans about potential new DLC, as he is well known for. The tweet confirms that all DLC, including characters, has come to an end. This debunks the rumors that a Mortal Kombat 11 Kombat Pack 3 had leaked on the PlayStation Store late last year, to the disappointment of many on the same Twitter thread. Fan reaction online has been mostly negative, with fans expressing contempt for not being notified months earlier. However, others have taken the announcement as a chance to thank NetherRealm for all the content it did put out. The announcement also puts the final nail in the coffin for the heavily rumored DLC character Ash. The Evil Dead protagonist was supposedly planned to be included as one of MK11's crossover combatants, but for reasons unknown, was never added into the game. Evidence of Ash joining the Mortal Kombat 11 roster first appeared in April 2019, the month the game launched, when data miners found scripted dialogue between the character and then yet-to-be-announced DLC characters such as Spawn and Joker. A few months later Ed Boon, in a podcast interview, said he wished he could comment, potentially hinting at licensing complications or something similar as to why Ash never appeared. The Mortal Kombat 11 tweet also reveals NetherRealm Studios to be focusing on its next project. While the video game developer has yet to divulge any information as to what that next project could be, there are plenty of rumors circling online that it's developing a new Marvel fighting game. Boon had confirmed in a 2019 interview with Game Informer that discussions with Marvel had happened, but stopped short of saying anything else. More recently, Boon retweeted director James Gunn, helmsman of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy films and DC's The Suicide Squad. Boon tweeted how he's impressed by working on DC and Marvel movies, alluding to working with both companies himself. While the declaration of Mortal Kombat 11 DLC being finished, we can officially look towards what the developer releases next. Unfortunately, that's really all we know about NetherRealm's next game that it's in development. But while it's not 100% clear what exactly NetherRealm Studios is working on, various rumors, interviews, and other evidence may point in one direction or another. Perhaps the most obvious option for NetherRealm Studios would be to start work on Injustice 3. NetherRealm has found great success with the first 2 Injustice fighting games, with both titles earning critical acclaim and strong sales. NetherRealm has also established a pattern in recent years of alternating between the Injustice games and Mortal Kombat titles. Since Mortal Kombat 11 was the last game released by NetherRealm, it stands to reason that Injustice 3 could very well be next to bat. NetherRealm Studios is owned by Warner Bros. Interactive, which means that a collaboration with Marvel Comics is very unlikely. Even so, that hasn't stopped the rumor mill from turning in Mortal Kombat game director Ed Boon himself teasing fans about the possibility of the studio working on a Marvel fighting game. Fast forward to 2021, and a reputable leaker claimed that NetherRealm was working on Marvel, with Boon's Twitter antics throwing fuel on that fire. A Marvel fighting game developed by NetherRealm Studios is a dream game for many, and while it still seems unlikely due to the various businesses involved, there is at least some evidence to suggest that it could be legitimate. Out of all the possible projects NetherRealm could work on, the Marvel fighting game seems like the most exciting prospect. NetherRealm's bread and butter is the Mortal Kombat franchise, so while some fans may be anxious to see Injustice 3 or the rumored Marvel fighting game, others may just want to see another MK title instead. While some may think it's too soon since the release of Mortal Kombat 11 for NetherRealm to already be working on another Mortal Kombat game, Mortal Kombat 12 would potentially be the first game in the series built from the ground up for next-generation consoles. This would allow it to take full advantage of the added horsepower provided by the PS5 and Xbox Series X, providing a markedly different fighting game experience than its predecessors. Plus, a Mortal Kombat 12 game could potentially fulfill some of the rumored and leaked guest fighters that didn't make it to Mortal Kombat 11. Ed Boon has said that Omni-Man from Invincible would have been a good fit for Mortal Kombat 11's roster, plus there were endless rumors that Ash from Evil Dead would be joining the game, only for it to never actually happen. Maybe these characters and others could finally make their Mortal Kombat franchise debuts as guest fighters in the next game. Perhaps if NetherRealm is going back to the Mortal Kombat well already, it won't be in the form of Mortal Kombat 12. Another possibility is that NetherRealm will instead move forward with a remaster for one of its older Mortal Kombat games, which was hinted at by Ed Boon when he hosted a poll asking fans what remaster would they most be interested in. The poll included Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat, Deception, Mortal Kombat 9, and Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks as options, with Shaolin Monks coming out as the clear favorite. Boon has admitted that NetherRealm has talked about remasters in the past, which lends more credibility to the theory that the company could be making a remaster next. As for what Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is, it's a beat-em-up starring Liu Kang and Kung Lao, so it's a very different flavor when compared to the traditional Mortal Kombat games. While remasters, sequels, and the rumored Marvel fighting game may be the most likely candidates for NetherRealm's next project, it's always possible that the company could be working on something completely unexpected. Maybe the next NetherRealm game is based on a different franchise entirely, or maybe it's a brand new IP. Whatever the case may be, hopefully fans of NetherRealm's work don't have to wait all that much longer to find out more. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and if you want to contribute for the growth of the channel, the link to my PayPal in the video's description and in the channel banner. Donations are always appreciated. Thanks for watching the video, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV it's goodbye.